For the special nature of the VCFs and the angel investors. We will take additional measures to strengthen the environment for their growth and successful operation of the Alternative Investment Fund in India. Creation of job opportunities and facilitating generation of employment has been at the core of the policy planning. During the last 3 years, we have taken a number of steps to boost employment and generation in the country. These measures include contribution of 8.33% of the EPF for new employees by the government for 3 years, contribution of 12% to EPF of new employees of 3 years by government sector employing large number of people such as people like textile, leather and footwear, additional deduction to employees of 30% of wages paid for employees under the Income Tax Act, launch of National Apprentice Scheme and stipend and support and sharing of the cost of the basic training by the government to give training to 50 lakh youth by 2020, introduction system of fixed term employment for apparel and footwear industry, increasing paid maternity leave from 12 weeks to 26 weeks, along with the provision for creches. These measures have started showing results. An independent study conducted recently has shown 70 lakh formal jobs being created in this year. To carry forward the momentum, I am happy to announce that the government will contribute 12% of the wages of new employees in EPF for all sectors for the next 3 years. Also, the facility of fixed term employment will be extended to all sectors. To incentivize employment for more women in the formal sector and to enable higher take-home wages, I propose to make an amendment to the Employees Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provision Act to reduce women contribution to 8% for the first 3 years of their employment as against 12% or 10% with no changes to the employee's contribution. The government is setting up a model aspirational skill center in every district in the country under the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Kendra program. 306 Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Kendras have been established for imparting skill training through these centers. The government has approved a comprehensive textile package of rupees 6,000 crores in 2016 to boost the apparel and made-up segments. I now propose an outlay of rupees 7,148 for the textile sector in 2018 and 19. Infrastructure and financial sector development. Infrastructure is the growth driver of the economy. Our country needs massive investment estimated to be in excess of 50 lakh crores in infrastructure to increase growth of GDP, connect and integrate the nation with a network of roads, airports, railways, ports, inland water, and to provide good quality services to the people. We have made an all-time high allocation in rail and road sector. We have committed to further enhancing public investment. Provision of key linkages like coal for power, power for railways, and railway rakes for coal have been rationalized and made very efficient. Prime Minister personally reviews the targets and the achievements in infrastructure sectors on a regular basis. Using online monitoring system of Pragati alone, projects worth rupees 9.46 lakh crores have been facilitated and fast-tracked. To secure India's defense, we are developing connectivity infrastructure in the border areas. Rohtang Tunnel has been completed to provide all-weather connectivity to the Ladakh region. Contract for the construction of the Zojila Pass Tunnel of more than 14 kilometers is progressing well. I now propose to take up the construction of a tunnel under the Sela Pass. For promoting tourism and emergency medical care, government will make necessary framework for encouraging investment in the seaplane activities. Urbanization is our opportunity and priority. My government has rolled out two interlinked programs, Smart City Mission and the Amrut. Smart City Mission aims at creating 100 smart cities and state-of-art amenities. I am happy to inform that 99 cities have been selected with an outlay of rupees 2.04 lakh crores. These cities have started implementing various projects like Smart City Command Control Center, Smart Roads, Smart Solar Roof, Intelligent Transport Systems, Smart Parks. Projects worth rupees 2,350 crores have been completed and work of rupees 20,852 crores has been under progress. To preserve and revitalize the soul of the heritage cities of India, National Heritage City Development Augmentation Yojana has been taken up in a major way. India is blessed with an abundance of tourist attractions. It is proposed to develop 10 prominent tourist sites into iconic tourism destinations by following an holistic approach involving infrastructure and skill development, development of technology, attracting private investment, branding and marketing. In addition, tourist amenities at 110 Adarsh monuments in the Archaeological Survey of India will be upgraded to an enhanced visitor experience. The Amrit program focuses on providing water supply to all households in 500 cities. State level plans of rupees 77,640 crores for 500 cities has been approved. Water supply contracts for 494 projects worth rupees 19,428 crores and sewage work contracts for rupees 272 projects costing rupees 12,429 crores has been awarded. Reforms have been catalyzed by these missions. 482 cities have started credit ratings. 142 cities have got investment grade ratings. My ministry will leverage the India Infrastructure Finance Corporation to help finance major infrastructure projects, including investment in education, health infrastructure, or strategic and larger societal benefit considerations. The government has scaled new heights in the development of the road infrastructure. We are confident to complete the national highways exceeding 9,000 kilometers during 2017 and 18. The ambitious Bharatmala project has been approved for providing seamless connectivity of interior and backward areas and borders of the country to develop 35,000 kilometers in phase 1 at an estimated cost of 5,35,000 crores to raise equity from the market for its mature road assets. NHAI will consider organizing the road assets into a special purpose vehicle and use the innovative mobilization structures like toll, operate and transfer and infrastructure investment funds. Strengthening the railway networks and enhancing railways carrying capacity has been a major focus of the government. Railway capex for the year 2018-19 has been pegged at rupees 1,48,528 crores. A large part of the capex is devoted to its capacity creation. 18,000 kilometers of doubling and third and fourth line works of 5,000 kilometers of gauge conversion would eliminate capacity constraints and transform almost the entire network into broad gauge. There are also significant improvement in the achievement of the physical target of the railways itself. We are moving fast towards optimal electrification of railway network. 4,000 kilometers targeted for commissioning during 2017-18. Work on eastern and western dedicated freight corridor is also in full swing. Adequate number of rolling stock, 12,000 wagons, 5,160 coaches, and approximately 700 locomotives are being produced during the year 2018-19. A major program has been initiated to strengthen the infrastructure goods shed and fast track commissioning of the private buildings. A safety-first policy with allocation of adequate funds under the Rashtriya Railway Sanrakshana Kosh is a cornerstone of the railways. Focus on safety. Maintenance of track infrastructure is being given special attention. Over 3,600 kilometers of track renewal is targeted during the current year. Other major steps include increasing use of technology, fog-safe train protection and warning system. A decision has been taken to eliminate 4,267 unmanned railway crossings in the broad gauge network in the next 2 years. Redevelopment of 600 major railway stations is being taken up by the Indian Railway Station Development Company Limited. All stations with more than 25,000 footfalls will have escalators. All railway stations and trains will be progressively provided with Wi-Fi, CCTVs, and will also provide at all stations and on trains to enhance security passengers. Modern train sets with state-of-art amenities and features are being designed at the Integrated Coach Factory, Perambur. First such train set will be commissioned during 2018-19. The Mumbai transport system, which is the lifeline of the city, is being expanded and augmented to add 90 kilometers of double line track at a cost of rupees 11,000 crores. 150 kilometers of additional suburban network is being planned at a cost of rupees 40,000 crores, including elevated corridors in some sections. A suburban network of approximately 160 kilometers is also being at an estimated cost of rupees 17,000 crores is being planned to cater to the growth of the Bengaluru metropolis. Foundation of the Mumbai-Ahmedabad bullet train project, India's first high-speed rail project, was laid on September 14, 2017. An institute is coming up at Vadodara to train the manpower required for the high-speed railway project. For the first 3 years, the domestic air passenger traffic grew at 18% and our airline companies placed orders for more than 900 aircrafts. Regional Connectivity Scheme, UDAN, initiated by the Government of India last year, shall connect 56 unserved airports and 31 unserved helipads in the country. Operations have already started at 16 such airports. सरकार की इस पहल से हवाई चप्पल पहनने वाले नागरिक भी अब हवाई जहाज की यात्रा करेंगे. Airport Authority of India now has 124 airports. We propose to expand our airport capacity more than 5 times to handle 1 billion trips a year under the new initiative. Navnirman balance sheet of Airport Authority of India shall be leveraged to raise more resources for funding and expansion. Our efforts to set up a coalition on the disaster resilient infrastructure for developing international good practice, appropriate standard and regulatory mechanism for resilient infrastructure development is moving well. I propose to allocate 60 crores for kickstarting the initiative. The government and the market regulators will then will have taken necessary measures for developing and monetizing vehicles like the Infrastructure Investment Fund and the Real Estate Investment Fund. The Government of India would monetize select CPSC SEs using the InvITs from next year. In the current year, we included in the scope of harmonized list of infrastructure, ropeways to promote tourism, logistic parks, and expanded the scope of railway infrastructure to include development of commercial land around the railway station. The Reserve Bank of India has issued guidelines to nudge corporates to access the bond market. SEBI will also consider mandating, beginning with large corporates to meet about 1/4 of their financing needs from the bond market. Corporate bonds rated at BB, triple B or equivalent are investment grade. In India, most regulators permit bonds with the AA rating only as eligible for investment. It is now to move from AA to A grade ratings. The government has and the concerned regulators will take necessary action. We will also we will take reform measures with respect to the stamp duty regime on the financial securities transactions in consultation with the states and make necessary amendments in the Indian Stamp Act. International Financial Service Center at the Gift City, which has become operational, needs a coherent and integrated regulatory framework to fully develop and to compete other offshore financial centers. The government will establish a unified authority for regulating all financial services in the IFCS in Delhi, in India. Global economy is transforming into a digital economy thanks to the development of the cutting edge technologies in the digital space. Machine learning, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, 3D printing, and like. Initiatives such as the Digital India, Startup India, Make in India would help to establish itself as a knowledge and digital society. Niti Aayog will establish a national program to direct our efforts in the area of artificial intelligence, including research and development of its applications. Combining cyber and physical systems with greater potential to transform not only innovation ecosystems but also our economies and the way of life. To invest in research, training, and skilling in robotics, artificial intelligence, digital manufacturing, big data intelligence, quantum communications, and the art of things. Department of Science and Technology will launch a mission on cyberspace in support of establishment of centers of excellence. I have doubled their allocation on the Digital India program to rupees 3,073 in 2018-19. The task of connecting 1 lakh gram panchayats to high-speed optic fiber network has been completed under phase 1 of the BharatNet program. This has enabled broadband access to cover 20 crore rural Indians in about 2,50,000 villages. The government also proposes to step up 5 lakh Wi-Fi hotspots, which will provide a broadband access to 5 crore rural citizens. I have provided rupees 10,000 crores in 2018-19 for creation and augmentation of this telecom infrastructure. To harness the benefits of emerging new technologies, particularly the fifth generation technologies and its adoption, the Department of Telecom will support the establishment of the indigenous 5G test bed at IIT Chennai. Distributed ledger system on the blockchain technology allows organization of any chain of records or transactions without the need of intermediaries. The government does not consider cryptocurrencies as legal tender or coin and will take all measures to eliminate the use of these crypto assets in financing illegitimate activities or as part of the payment system. The government will explore use of blockchain technology proactively for ushering in a digital economy. The system of toll payment physically by cash at the road plazas is being fast replaced by the FASTags and other electronic payment systems to make roads seamless. Number of FASTags have gone up from about 60,000 to December 2016 to more than 10 lakh now. From December 2017, all class M and N vehicles are being sold only with the FASTag tags. The government of India will come out with a policy to introduce a toll system on pay-as-you-use basis. In order to create employment and aid growth, government's estimated budgetary and extra budgetary expenditure on infrastructure for 18-19 is being increased to rupees 5.97 lakh crores as against an estimated expenditure of rupees 4.94 lakh crores in 17-18. Details are given in Annexure 3. Our armed forces have played a stellar role in meeting the challenges we have been facing on the borders as well as managing the internal security of both Jammu and Kashmir and Northeast. I would like to place on record our appreciation for the efforts and the sacrifices made by these services in defending the interest of the nation. Ever since the NDA government assumed office, a lot of emphasis was given to the modernizing and enhancing of the operational capability of the defense forces. A number of initiatives have been taken to develop and nurture intrinsic defense production capable of making the nation self-reliant for meeting our defense needs and ensuring adequate budget support to our priority. We have opened up private investment in the defense production, including liberalizing foreign direct investment. We have taken measures to develop two defense industrial production corridors in the country. The government will bring out an industry-friendly defense production policy in 2018 to promote the domestic production by public sector, private sector, and the MSMEs. Aadhaar has provided an identity to every Indian. Aadhaar has eased delivery of so many public services to our people. Every enterprise, major or small, also needs a unique ID. The government will involve a scheme to assign every individual enterprise in India a unique ID. To carry on business reforms for ease of doing business deeper and in every state of India, Government of India has identified 372 basic business reform actions. Each state will take up these reforms and simplifications in a mission mode, constructively competing with each other. Evaluating the performance under this program will now be based on the feedbacks. Capital of the Food Corporation of India is being restructured to enhance equity and to raise a long-term debt for meeting a standard working requirement. Budgeting of the Government of India's contribution in equity and the debt of the metro ventures floated by state governments will be streamlined. The Department of Commerce will be developing a national logistic portal and a single window online marketplace to link all stakeholders. The Government of India has approved the listing of 14 CPSEs, including 2 insurance companies on the stock exchanges. The government has initiated a process of strategic disinvestment of 24 CPSEs. This will include the strategic privatization of the Air India. Process of acquisition of the Hindustan Petroleum Corporation by ONGC has been successfully completed. 3 public sector general insurance companies, National Insurance Company Limited, United Assurance Company Limited, United India Assurance Company Limited, and the Oriental India Insurance Company Limited will be merged into a single insurance entity and will be subsequently listed. The Government of India introduced the Exchange Traded Fund Bharat 22 to raise 14,500 crores, which was oversubscribed in all segments. DIPAM will continue with more ETF offers, including a debt ETF. 2017-18 budget estimates for disinvestment were pegged at the highest ever level of 72,500 crores. I am happy to inform this House that we have already exceeded this target. I am assuming a receipt of rupees 1 lakh crores from disinvestment for 17-18. I am setting a disinvestment target of 80,000 crores for 2018-19. Bank recapitalization program has been launched with bonds at rupees 80,000 crores being issued this year. The program has been integrated with an ambitious reform agenda and the rubric of an enhanced access to service excellence program. This recapitalization will pave the way for public sector banks to lend an additional rupees 5 lakh crores. It is proposed to allow strong regional rural banks to raise capital from the market to enable them to increase its credit to the rural economy. The National Housing Bank is being amended to transfer its equity from the Reserve Bank to the Government of India. The Indian Post Office Act, Provident Fund Act, and the National Savings Certificate Act are being amalgamated, and certain additional people-friendly measures are being introduced. To provide the RBI an instrument to manage excess liquidity, the RBI Act is being amended to institutionalize the collateralized deposit facility, Securities and Exchange Control Board of India Act 1992, Securities Contract Regulation Act 1956, and Depositories Act 1996 are being amended to streamline the adjudication procedures and to provide penalties on certain infractions. These proposals are given in the finance bill. For easier access, links to all detailed demands for grants will be provided at indiagovernment.in. The government will also consider the feasibility of providing disclosed financial information in a machine-readable form. The government is transforming method of disposal at its business by introduction of an e-office and other e-governance initiatives in the central ministries and departments. These initiatives are given in annexure 4. The government will formulate a comprehensive gold policy to develop gold as an asset class. The government will also establish a system of a consumer-friendly, trade-efficient system of regulated gold exchanges in the country. Gold monetization scheme will be revamped to enable people to open a hassle-free gold deposit account. The outward direct investment from India has grown to US 15 billion per annum. The government will review existing guidelines and processes to bring a coherent and integrated outward direct investment. Hybrid instruments are suitable for attracting a foreign investment in several niche areas, such as startups and venture capital firms. The government will involve a separate policy for hybrid instruments. Now, this is important, madam. The emoluments of the president, the vice president, and the governors were last revised on 1st January 2006. These emoluments are proposed to be revised to rupees 5 lakhs for president, rupees 4 lakhs for the vice president, and rupees 3.5 lakhs per month for the governors. There has been a considerable public debate with regard to the emoluments paid to members of parliament. The present practice allows the recipients to fix their own emoluments, which invites criticism. I am therefore proposing necessary changes to refix the salary, constituency allowance, other expenses and meeting allowances payable to members of parliament with effect from 1st April 2018. The law will also provide for an automatic revision of emoluments every 5 years indexed to inflation. The law will also provide, I repeat, for an automatic revision of emoluments every 5 years indexed to inflation. I am sure the members of parliament will welcome this initiative and which will not suffer any criticism in future. Our country will commemorate the 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation, on 2nd October 2019 to 2nd October 2020. The government and the people of India will rededicate themselves through actions to idols of the Mahatma taught and lived by. A national committee chaired by the Prime Minister which includes the chief ministers of the state, representatives from across the political spectrum, Gandhian thinkers and eminent persons from all walks of life have been constituted to formulate a commemoration program. My government has earmarked a sum of rupees 150 crores for year 2018-19 for the activities leading to the commemoration. I now turn to the fiscal situation for the year 2017-18 and the fiscal estimates of 2018-19. In 2017-18, the central government will be receiving a GST revenue for only 11 months instead of 12 months. This will have a fiscal effect. There will also be a shortfall of non-tax revenue on account of certain developments, including deferment of the spectrum auctions. A part of this shortfall has been made up through higher direct tax revenues and bigger disinvestment receipts. Total revised estimates of expenditure for 2017-18 are 21.57 lakh crores net of GST compensation transfer to the states, as against a budget estimate of 21.47 lakh crores. Our government assumed office in May 2014 when the fiscal deficit was running at a high level. Fiscal deficit for 2013-14 was 4.4% of the GDP. The Prime Minister and the government have always attached an utmost importance to prudent fiscal management and controlling fiscal deficit. As honorable members would recall, we embarked upon the path of consistent fiscal reduction and consolidation in 2014. Fiscal deficit was brought down to 4.1 in 14-15, 3.9 in 15-16, 3.5 in 16-17. Revised fiscal deficit estimate for 2017-18 is at rupees 5.95 lakh crores, that is 3.5% of the GDP. I am projecting a fiscal deficit of 3.3% of the GDP for 2018 and 19. In order to impart unquestionable credibility to the government's commitment to the revised fiscal glide path, I am proposing to accept the key recommendations of the Fiscal Reform and Budgetary Management Committee relating to the adoption of the debt rule and to bring down the central government debt to the GDP ratio to 40%. The government has also accepted the recommendation to use the fiscal deficit target as a key operational parameter. Necessary amendments are proposed in the finance bill itself. Madam Speaker, I shall now turn to my tax proposals. The attempts made by the government, our government for reducing the cash in the economy and for increasing the tax nets have paid rich dividends. The growth rate of direct taxes in the financial year 2016-17 and 2017-18 have been significant. We have ended last year with a growth rate of 12.6% in direct taxes in the current year, and the growth in the direct taxes till 15th January 2018 is 18.7%. The average buoyancy in personal income tax of 7 years preceding these 2 years comes to 1.1%. In simple terms, tax buoyancy of 1.1 means that if nominal GDP growth of the country is at 10%, the growth rate of personal income tax would be 11%. However, the buoyancy in personal income tax for the financial year 16-17 and 17-18 is at 1.95 and 2.11 respectively. This indicates that the excess revenue collected in the last 2 financial years from personal income tax compared to the average buoyancy pre-2016-17 amounts to a total of about 90,000 crores, which can be attributed to the strong anti-evasion measures taken by the government. Similarly, there has been a huge increase in the number of the returns filed by taxpayers in the financial year 2016-17. 85.51 lakh new taxpayers filed their returns as against 66.26 lakhs in the immediately preceding years. By including all filers as well as persons who did not file returns but paid tax by way of advance tax or TDS, we can derive the figure of the effective tax base. The number of effective taxpayers has thus increased from 6.47 lakh crores in the beginning of 14-15 to 8.27 crores by the end of 16-17. We are enthused by the success of the measures and are pledged to continue to take all such measures in future by which black money is contained and honest taxpayers are rewarded. Demonetization was received by honest taxpayers as Imandari Ka Utsav only for this reason. Madam Speaker, recognizing the need for facilitating compliance, government has liberalized the presumptive income scheme for small traders and entrepreneurs with an annual turnover of less than rupees 2 crores and introduced a similar scheme for professionals with an annual turnover of less than 50 lakhs with a hope that there would be significant increase in compliance. Under this scheme, 41% more returns were filed this year, which shows that many more persons are joining the tax net under the simplified scheme. However, turnover is still not encouraging. The department has received 44.72 lakh returns for assessment year 2017-18 for individual HUF and firms with a meager turnover of rupees 17.97 lakhs and an average tax payment of only rupees 7,000. The tax compliance behavior of professionals is no better. The department has received 5.68 lakh returns under the presumptive income scheme for the assessment year 17-18 with an average receipt of 5.73 lakhs only. Average tax paid by them is rupees 35,000. Madam Speaker, at present 100% tax deduction is allowed in respect of profit of cooperative societies which provide assistance to its members engaged in primary agricultural activities. Over the last few years, a number of farmer producer companies have been set up on the line of cooperative societies which have provided similar assistance to its members. In order to encourage professionalism in the post-harvest value addition in agriculture, I propose to allow 100% deduction to these companies registered as farmer producer companies having a turnover of rupees 100 crores in respect of their profits derived from such activities for a period of 5 years from 2018-19. This measure will also encourage Operation Green's mission announced by me earlier and will give a boost to the Sampada Yojana. Currently, employment generation. Currently, a deduction of 30% is allowed in addition to a normal deduction of 100% in respect of emoluments paid to eligible new employees who have been employed for a maximum period of 240 days during the year under Section 80 JJAA of the Income Tax Act. However, the minimum period of employment is relaxed to 150 days in the case of the apparel industry in order to encourage creation of new employment. I propose to extend this relaxation to footwear and leather industry also. Further, I also propose to rationalize this deduction of 30% by allowing the benefit of a new employee who is employed for less than the minimum period during the first year, but continues to be remain on the roll employed for a minimum of the subsequent year. Incentive for real estate. Currently, while taxing income from capital gains, business profit and other sources in respect of transactions and immovable property, the consideration of circle rate value, whichever is higher, is adopted. and the difference is counted as an income both in the hands of the purchaser and the seller. Sometimes this valuation can occur in respect of different properties in the same areas because of variety of factors, including the shape of the plot and the location. In order to minimize the hardship to the real estate transactions, I propose to provide that no adjustment shall be made in case where the circle rate value does not exceed 5% of the consideration. Incentivizing micro, small and medium enterprises. In the Union Budget 2017, I had announced a reduction of corporate tax to 25% for companies whose turnover was 50 crores in the financial year 2015-16. This benefited 96% of the total companies filing tax returns. Towards fulfillment of my promise to reduce the corporate tax in a phased manner, I now propose to extend the benefit of the reduced corporate rate of 25% to companies who have a reported turnover up to rupees 250 crores in the financial year 2016-17. This will benefit the entire this will This will benefit the entire micro, small and medium enterprises, which amount for 99% of the companies filing their tax returns. The estimates of revenue foregone due to this measure, Madam, are they objecting to any concession to MSMEs? This, the estimate The estimate of revenue foregone due to this measure is rupees 7,000 crores during the financial years 2018-19. Out of this, about 7 lakh companies filing returns, 7,000 companies which file returns of income which is above 250 crores will remain in the 30% slab. The lower corporate income tax rate for 99 companies will leave them with higher investable surplus, which in turn will create more jobs. Relief to the salaried taxpayers. The government has made many positive changes in the personal income tax rates applicable to the individuals in the last 3 years. Therefore, I do not propose to make any further changes in the structure of the income tax for individuals. There is a general perception in society that individual business persons are have better income as compared to salaries class. However, the income tax data suggests that a major portion of the personal income tax collection comes from the salaried class. For the assessment year 2016-17, 1.89 crore salaried individuals have filed their returns and have paid a total tax of 1.44 lakh crores, which works out to an average tax payment of rupees 76,306 per individual salaried taxpayer. As against this, 1.88 lakh crores 1.88 crores individual business taxpayers, including professionals, have filed their tax returns for the same assessment year period and paid a total amount of rupees 48,000, which works out to an average payment of rupees 25,753 per individual business taxpayer. In order to provide relief to salaried taxpayers, I propose to allow a standard deduction of rupees 40,000 in lieu of present exemption in respect of transport and reimbursement of miscellaneous medical expenses. However, transport allowance at enhanced rates shall continue to be available to differently abled persons. Also, other medical reimbursement benefits in the case of hospitalization for all employees shall continue. Apart from reducing paperwork and compliance, this will help the middle class employees even more in terms of reduction of their tax liability. This decision to allow a standard deduction shall significantly benefit pensioners also, who normally do not enjoy any allowance on account of transport and medical expenses. The revenue cost of this decision is approximately rupees 8,000 crores. The total number of salaried employees and pensioners who will benefit from these decisions is about 2.5 crores. Relief to senior citizens. A life with dignity is a right every individual in general, more so for a senior citizen. To care for those who cared for us is one of the highest honors. To further the objective of providing a dignified life, I propose to announce the following incentives for senior citizens. Exemption of interest income on deposits with banks and post offices to be increased from rupees 10,000 to rupees 50,000, and TDS shall not be required to be deducted on such income under section 194A. The benefit shall also be for interest on all fixed deposit schemes and recurring deposit schemes. Raising the limit of deduction for health insurance and premium and medical expenditure from 30,000 to 50,000 under section 80D. All senior citizens will also now be able to claim benefit of a reduction of 50,000 per annum in respect of any health insurance premium and general medical expenditure incurred by them. Raising the limit of deduction of medical expenditure in respect of certain critical illness from rupees 60,000 in the case of senior citizens and 80,000 in the case of very senior citizens to rupees 1 lakh in respect of all senior citizens under section 80 DDP. These concessions will give extra tax benefit of rupees 4,000 crores to senior citizens. In addition to the tax concessions, I propose to extend the Pradhan Mantri Vay Vandana Yojana up to March 2020, under which an assured return of 8% is given by the Life Insurance Corporation of India. The existing limit of investment of rupees 7.5 lakhs per senior citizen under this scheme is being increased to rupees 15 lakhs. The government of India had endeavored to develop a world-class international financial centers in India. In recent years, various measures, including tax incentives, have been provided in order to fulfill the objectives. To further this objective, I propose to provide 2 concessions for IFSC in order to promote trade in stock exchanges located in the IFSC. I propose to exempt transfer of derivatives and certain securities by non-residents from capital gains tax. Further, non-corporate taxpayers operating in the IFCs shall be charged alternative minimum tax at a concessional rate of 9% at par with the minimum alternative tax applicable to corporates. Further measures to control cash economy. Currently, the income of trust and institutions is exempted if they utilize their income towards the objects in accordance with the relevant provisions of the Income Tax Act. However, there is no restriction on these entities incurring expenditure in income in order to have audit trail of their expenses incurred in these entities. It is proposed that payments exceeding rupees 10,000 in cash made by such entities shall be disallowed and the same shall be subjected to tax. Further, in order to improve TDS compliance in these entities, I propose to provide that in case of non-deduction of tax, 30% of the amount shall be disallowed and the same shall be taxed. Rationalizing the long-term capital gains. Madam Speaker, currently the long-term capital gains arising from transfer of limited equity shares, units of equity-oriented funds, and unit of a business trust are exempted from tax. With the reforms introduced by the government and the incentives given so far, the equity market has become buoyant. The total amount of exempted capital gains from the listed shares of units is around 3,67,000 crores as per return filed in the assessment year 2017-18. Major part of this gain has been accrued by corporate and LLPs. This has also created a bias against manufacturing, leading to more business surpluses being invested in financial assets. The return on investment in equity is already attractive even without tax exemption. There is therefore a strong case for bringing the long-term capital gains from listed equities into the tax net. However, recognizing the fact that a vibrant equity market is essential for economic growth, I propose only a modest change in the present regime. I propose to tax such long-term capital gain exceeding rupees 1 lakh at the rate of 10% without allowing the benefit of indexation. However, all gains up to 31st January 2018, that is today, will be grandfathered. For example, if an equity share is purchased 6 months before 31st January 2018 at rupees 100 and the highest price quoted on 31st January 2018 in respect of the share is rupees 120, there will be no tax on the gain of rupees 20 if the share is sold after 1 year from the date of purchase. However, any gain in excess of rupees 20 earned after 31st January 2018 will be taxed at 10% if this share is sold after 31st July 2018. The gains from equity shares held up to 1 year will remain short-term capital gain and will continue to be taxed at a rate of rupees 15%. Further, I also propose to introduce a tax on distributed income by equity-oriented mutual funds at a rate of 10%. This will provide a level playing field across the growth-oriented funds and dividend-distributing funds. In view of grandfathering, this change, the capital gain will bring a marginal revenue of rupees 20,000 crores in the first year. The revenues in the subsequent years may be more. Health and education cess. Madam, at present there is a 3% cess on personal income tax and corporate income tax consisting of 2% cess for primary education and 1% cess for secondary and higher education. In order to take up the needs of education and healthcare and BPL, I have announced in part A of my speech. To fund this, I propose to increase the cess by 1%. The existing 3% cess will be replaced by a 4% health and education cess to be levied on the tax payable. This would enable us to collect an additional rupees 11,000 crores. E-assessment. We had introduced e-assessment for 2016 on a pilot basis and in 2017 extended it to 102 cities with an objective of reducing the interface between the department and the taxpayer. With the experience gained so far, we are now to roll out an e-assessment across the country, which will transform the age-old system of procedure of the income tax department and the manner in which they interact with the taxpayer and the stakeholders. Accordingly, I propose to amend the Income Tax Act to notify a new scheme for assessment whereby the assessment will be done in an electronic mode, which will almost eliminate any person-to-person contact, leading to greater efficiency and transparency. My other tax proposals on direct taxes are contained in Annexure 5. Indirect tax. On the indirect tax side, this is the first budget after the rollout of the goods and services tax. Excise duties to a large extent and service tax have been subsumed in the GST along with the corresponding duties on imports. Hence, my budget proposals are mainly on the custom side. In this budget, I am making a calibrated departure from the underlying policy in the last 2 decades, wherein the trend largely was to reduce custom duty. There is a substantial potential for domestic value addition in certain sectors like food processing, electronics, auto components, footwear, and furniture. To further incentivize the domestic value addition and make in India in these sectors, I propose to increase the custom duty in certain items. I propose to increase the custom duty on mobile phones